Call this meeting of the Pittsburg City Commission to order. Will you please rise with me for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. All right, we'll begin this evening with public input. So if there's anyone that has anything that they'd like to say during public input, they can come forward. I think we're gonna.
Yeah.
You said public input.
I'm used to being second fiddle.
Hey, you got better input than I got.
Sounds like we need to have a prayer for this group tonight. Let us pray. Holy Father, we thank you that we can come together in peace and harmony with one another, and to ask you to bless this council and for all that they do, giving up their time to serve the city of Pittsburg. Bless all the workers for all the great duties that they do in serving one another. Bless our city. May we continue to prosper and be a shining city on a hill for many to come and to enjoy this great town. Father, bless this meeting to be in peace and harmony, and may we all leave together in one accord. We ask these things in Christ. Amen.
All right, if there's anyone else that wanted to come up, Ralph, come on up.
My name's Ralph McGeorge. I live at 2301 North Rouse, Pittsburg, Kansas. Been a resident all my life. I served on this commission for 9.5 years, and served with some great commissioners. You know, Jim Abishon, Gary Lastman, Marty Beasley, Don Cash, and David Nance. And when I left, gave my resignation to go to the county for 4 years. Patrick Keith filled my spot. But tonight I was wanting to speak up. I attended the meeting from Westar Friday, and it's quite concerning on that to me. And I think, you know, that we need to really take a good hard look at that to see what it's going to do to the citizenry in Pittsburg. Because if the city buys the power from Westar at a price, it's going to be a pretty good chunk of money. And they'll have to get a bond issue to do that, which we'll also have to pay interest on that. And then we'll have to employ some kind of electrical company that's going to take care of it, other than Westar themselves, because they're going to be stepping out of the picture. And if we have a big major outage or anything like that, they're going to have some help, and then they'll have to employ somebody else, which is going to raise the cost. And I think with there's Girard, they bought theirs, and I've worked over there for 44 years in Girard, Kansas, and they paid more for their power than what they would if they'd bought it direct from the electric company. And I just want to say that I'm very satisfied with Westar. I think a lot of people are, and the way I got it from the consensus in the meeting, there's still a lot of people that was wanting to stay with Westar. I know this is probably way ahead of myself on this thing here too, but we need to take a good hard look at it to see what it's going to do to the community and the people. We are a poor community, and we have to look out after them. And you know, I served on this commission, and I know it's a hard job to do, and you have to sit there and do what's best for all. Not only just the city. I know it's going to be a generator for additional income, but that's going to be coming from the residents. And I just don't. Looking into some of this, and I just, you know, that's just my opinion on it. Guys, think this all over and see what's best for the community as a whole.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Ralph. And so the hope is for both Ralph and everybody else, so we understand that. So we're currently putting out an RFP, if it hasn't been put out already,
Yes.
that will seek consultants who will put together a proposal that will basically study and look into all of the stuff that you were describing, Ralph. So that it's not just the 10 eyes up here that are going to be looking at it, but people who are experiencing this and know what to be looking for, so that we have a good idea of what we're getting ourselves into, and not simply idealistically charging blindly ahead and saying, I hope this works out, and then falling on our faces. So it is, I can't speak for the other commissioners, but certainly for myself, it's my intention to be as thorough as possible when approaching this and making the best decision, not just for the city, but for all of the residents as well. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else here for public opinion time? If not, we will close public input. Oh, go ahead.
So my name is Zach Dickey. I'm representing Next Generation Insurance Family, and we got started April 17th here in Pittsburgh. My brother-in-law Brandon Green and I stepped out on our own, and we quit our jobs March 1st, and we feel that there was a void here in Pittsburgh, Kansas. I wanted to introduce ourselves to you in a professional setting. I know some of you personally, and know of some of you also, but from a professional standpoint, we felt that there was a void in Pittsburgh, Kansas, that there was a lot of insurance premium dollars, both from the group health side, and primarily from the group health side and the commercial property and casualty side that's leaving the area. And it's going to Kansas City, it's going to Fayetteville, it's going to Dallas even, it's going even further places like Phoenix. And we found policies from all over the place. That's a lot of money that doesn't stay here in Pittsburgh. It's a major drain on our local economy. And so we felt through the by being urged from a few employers here in town, large employers, to step out on our own, and they'd offer their support, and they have done that. And we're proud to say that after 5 months of going without a paycheck, which is the reason we bring our wives here too, is because they helped support the agency in a very big way. So I'd like to introduce Nicole, Dickey, Hillary Green, and Brandon Green. Brandon and I are 50-50 owners in this, and we actually sold effective August 1st. So we were up, and we started April 17th, got incorporated, and we sold August 1st to one of the fourth largest privately owned insurance agency in the country. We're very proud of that. They are bringing a lot of resources to Pittsburgh, Kansas, allowing us to bring some of those insurance policies that are going out of town. We are now able to have the expertise to keep those in town. The reason we present this to you tonight is because we would like to take a run at the city's insurance, and I'd like to read our ethos to you before I step down and let you guys get on with the rest of your night and more important stuff. We align this is Next Generation Insurance, our ethos is what we build everything on. We align our interests with those of our clients by transparently constructing insurance programs and services alongside owner employees and partners who share our vision and utilizing the latest technology to promote ethical, efficient, and sustainable outcomes so as to advance our communities. And I think the key word in there is transparent. We want to be completely transparent with everything we do. Thank you for listening, and we'd like to throw our hat in the ring.
Thank you, Zach. Jeff? Is there anyone else that wants to come forward for public input? All right. If not, we will close public input. Move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items anyone wants to remove from the consent agenda?
I would like to remove item B, please.
Okay. Are there any other items to be removed? If not, I will look for a motion to pass the consent agenda minus item B.
So move.
I second it.
All right. It's been moved and seconded for the consent agenda. Roll call vote.
Chenoweth?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Munsell?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Motion passes. I suppose before we proceed any further, I should mention that Dawn McNay could not be with us tonight, is the reason that she's not here. She's not simply skipping out on her duties. So, item B, approval of ordinance number G-1278, amending subsection E and subsection F of section 78-33 of the Pittsburgh City Code, decreasing the maximum speed limit on Centennial Drive between California Street and the east city limits from 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour, and the authorization for the mayor to sign the ordinance on behalf of the city. Sarah?
I thought that traffic changes, speed limit changes, can be a bit of a contentious issue. And so I just, for the record, for the people watching at home, thought that we could hear just an explanation of why we're considering that decision, if you would. Thank you.
Thank you. Cameron Alden, Director of Public Works. This was initially brought to us by our ATAB, the Active Transportation Advisory Board. They had noted a number of conflicts with pedestrians with limited mobility in order to get to some of the new facilities there. The Walmart neighborhood market there was one of them. Also getting to Lindbergh Pharmacy. That coupled with the fact that we'll be moving the crossing with the Safe Routes to School construction that's going to be going on Homer Street later this year. We'll move that to crossing on Centennial up to Homer Street there. And between that and all the additional commercial and residential development that's going out on that area of town, as well as allowing the police constant enforcement, and also for our residents to know that the speed limit's 35 through town. We've got the bypass, we've got certain sections of the state route that have different speed limits, but that our city speed limit is 35 for a max.
Any other questions? Not, I will take a motion.
I move to approve.
Second?
It's been moved and approved, or moved and seconded, pardon me. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Cameron. On the main agenda, CDL loan forgiveness. Consider the recommendation of the Economic Development Advisory Committee, or the EDAC, to forgive the 2018 loan payment from CDL Electric Company Incorporated in the amount of $41,564.68, as CDL Electric Company Incorporated has complied with the forgiveness requirements set forth in their loan documents.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. It is my pleasure to recommend forgiveness of the final year's payment for the CDL loan, as they have complied with all of the requirements. And we just tonight wanted to thank Larry Seward and CDL for acquiring the old McNally building. That's what this project was all about. And thank them for their investment, not only in this project, but for everything they do for our community. I obviously thank the City Commission. Commissioner O'Brien was on the commission at that time. This is a great public-private partnership, and we just wanted to make sure that it was highlighted. So if you have any words you would want to add, Larry?
The McNally building, with your guys' help, has been a great asset to us. We just locally have put on an additional 100 employees from the original agreement that we talked about, which was 5. It's helped us with our expansion with our partners. With Watco, it's helped us there, where we've been able to expand our electrical, expand our signal division to help their growing needs. So we appreciate all the help that the city gave us on that, and we want to thank you very much.
Larry, I just want to say I worked at both of them buildings you moved into, and I just want to thank you, because without you, I think them, I don't know how long they sat empty. I should know that, but I think they would have sat empty quite a while longer without you taking interest and moving your business there. So thank you.
Thank you. It's really fascinating how much that building has been tied with this community. I still have people every day come by or come in or call saying that they had a cousin work there, or a brother worked there, or a sister worked there. It's really fascinating how much that building has affected the community and the lives.
I'd like to thank you also, Larry, for the work you've done on the building and that you continue to be doing. I'd also like to thank you for having more trucks on the street than the city of Pittsburgh does. I think you beat them by a number of vehicles.
Well, one thing about it, either you go one block or the other, either the city of Pittsburgh or our guys are there, so.
Mr. Mayor, I would also be remiss if I didn't thank Jim Villamaria and Darren for their work on this project. They really got this project about 2 steps short of the finish line and then handed it off to me and let me carry it across the finish line. But these 2 guys did a lot of work, a lot of conversations to get this project. Obviously, Larry wrote the check, but both Darren and Jim did a lot of work to get it to this point. And as Commissioner Munsell said, that building sat empty for about 20 years.
Yeah, over
And
20 years.
Without a CDL, it would probably still be sitting empty. And that obviously is such a storied part of our history. So to see that back in use with a locally owned company it's just been a great example of a public-private partnership. This could really be an example for other communities looking to do things like this. So thanks.
Blake, could you talk a little bit about the forgiveness requirements?
Sure.
Like what
Yeah.
was required? For
We've required
people to know?
CDL to invest $273,000 of their own money into the project, and as Larry said, to maintain a head count of 50 through the life of the loan, which is right now, and the information that they submitted showed that they have 154 operating out of that building. So they have well exceeded the requirements for forgiveness. And the EDAC looked over this a couple of weeks ago, and that's their recommendation, is to forgive the final year's installment.
Sometimes you wonder why everybody wants to work with local businesses. Obviously, it's because they hire people and they eat lunch here and yada, yada, yada. But Larry takes it a step further. We've had some interesting interactions the last 3 years. We put in a very large generator at the water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, or the water treatment plant. And I don't think you'd ever done that work before. And obviously there were several firms from out of Topeka and Kansas City area, and you guys rolled up your sleeves and you threw your name in there and you put up a price that you stood behind, and we said, go ahead and do it. How bad can it be? It's just a big battery, right? And I think it was a jumping off point for your company. But as a result of that relationship, we've managed to find our way to your front door for contributions to our trail system, where you've been very generous in 3 years of helping us raise money. Most of that's done through the philanthropic community. So I just appreciate your partnership. I love seeing the company grow. And you guys are, Jim's always colorful to meet with and work with. And I know anytime I need you here, he'll make sure you get here without too much of a fuss. So I want to make sure.
Today was let's go, we gotta go to a meeting, so.
We may have talked to him early and made sure that you were going to get here, but it is a big deal, and you guys are a big deal, and we appreciate everything you're doing. So thanks for being our partners.
Thank you. We couldn't have done it without you and the partners that we have. Bye-bye.
And even more significant that they filled up every square inch of that building and.
Yeah, I was walking
And
through
put in
there
new windows.
today, and
Yeah.
I went, oh my God, there's not another thing we can shove in this building. It's completely full, and that's what's nice. And we had the room to expand. Watco, we're doing some fabrication work for them now. And we had the facility that we could expand into and bring in the people that we needed, the local people in the community, and it was just an immediate fit, and it fit well, and it just worked well. And it was just something that started when we all got together and did this. And it's just, you could just see how much it has helped us and the jobs that we put on.
Well, thank you again, Larry.
If there's no further discussion, I move to approve.
I second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Petition and authorizing resolution, 200 block of East Forest sanitary sewer extension. Staff is recommending the acceptance of a petition and approval of resolution number 1201, authorizing the construction of a sanitary sewer extension in the 200 block of East Forest. Cameron.
Mayor, Commissioners, what you have before you is we're looking at trying to clean up an issue that we've got several of these around town. We have a gentleman that's looking at building a new house, creating some infill. Up here, this is the area that we're looking at. As you see, we've got these lots facing 4th Street, and our sewer main is in the alley, and there is no public sewer running out to service those. Basically, those properties are all tied into one common service lateral, which does not work out well. And actually, EPA requires that anyone being serviced by a sewer is served by a main. So with this discussion with them, what we're looking at doing is just extending a sewer along that back there. They're granting us an easement so that we can provide that sewer, and we're looking at sharing the cost with them in this. And they would like to have their share to be assessed over 5 years.
Are there any questions?
I have none.
There
There's no
none?
issue, I move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Cameron. Engineering Services Agreement, Quincy and Rouse Signalization Project. Staff is requesting governing body approval of an engineering services agreement between the city and Trans Systems Corporation of Kansas City, Missouri for the engineering design services associated with the Quincy and Rouse Signalization Project in an amount not to exceed $29,500.
It's fairly straightforward. We're just looking at moving forward with the design of the project here. This has been in our 5-year plan for some time. And with the ever-increasing traffic, as mentioned before, along South Rouse and Centennial, it makes sense to go ahead and move forward with this before it becomes a logjam to try and get it in.
Are there any questions? If there are none, I'll move to approve.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Cameron. Farmers Market USDA loan. Consider staff recommendation to issue payment to the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, Rural Development in the amount of $75,000 to satisfy the loan made by the USDA to the Pittsburg Farmers Market.
Mayor, Commissioners, in February of 2017, we brought to you an opportunity to basically take over the operations of the Pittsburg area farmers market. The board that was operating it was, for the most part, in the red, and they were staying in the red, and they were going to be in the red, and that was an asset in the community that was invested in by a $110,000 grant, if you will, from the USDA to build the pavilion, although that facility sits on, in the end, railroad property that the city leases, and then we actually release it back to the farmers market group. So as we watched patiently to see if how things were going to turn out, eventually we were approached with the idea that we brought to the commission, which was, this is an important asset to the city. This is something that we need to have. It's similar to Memorial Auditorium, where you don't always have the luxury of, I'll actually liken it sometimes to a water park, which drives Kim crazy. But in my business, we laugh when people build water parks, because water parks, generally, they're like parking garages. They don't pay for themselves. There's a lot of people that utilize them. They're highly expensive, and all they really do is just fall apart. But sometimes you got to have them. The farmers market is a little different than that. It's a very nice facility. It's in a great area of town. We have a lot of people that are committed to it, but it wasn't being run as well as it could be. And so the question was, should the city step in? So we obviously approached you, asked you your thoughts. We had two things on the docket that day. We had an ordinance to actually appoint a board and take over operation, and then we had another ordinance to pay off the $110,000 note, which was, for the most part, the real burdensome piece of operating it, was the debt that we were required to pay. So when we left that meeting, the commission approved appointing the board and the operation, but left out the paying off the note, and directed the city manager and the staff to come back with options for paying, 4 sources of funds to pay off that note, and then B, continue a discussion about, I don't know specifically who it was, but should we pay off, how do we pay this off? How do we get out of this? Is there an end game? Can we get out of the farmer's market in the end? So today, I think we're pretty much ready to have that second conversation. We were very fortunate. The EDAC is a group that makes recommendations on how to spend the sales tax for economic development for our city. We went to them originally as a source for paying this off, and wanted to get their thoughts. They approved us to pay it off in the amount of up to $104,000, which was the balance a year ago. We brought that to you. As of today, the instruction we walked away with was, can you negotiate that note down with the USDA? And obviously, that's tricky. Jim Hoskins is on the EDAC. You may remember Jim. He's the man that coordinates the Dog Park Foundation. I can't remember the name of the...
Ronald O. Thomas.
Ronald O. Thomas. Foundation. So Jim was here recently, and he usually comes to our meetings, but he stepped in. He's a banker by trade, and he actually got us a 25% discount on that note. So what we're asking tonight for you to consider is to follow the EDAC's recommendation, use the revolving loan fund to pay off the $75,000 note. That would officially make the farmer's market the city's. We would operate it. Kim has operated it the current year. I think we ended up with a balance of about $6,500 in the black, so that's good news. And it's the first year we operated it, so I know Jay and others have plans for how we could continue to grow the farmer's market. But really what we're asking for today is your approval to pay off the note, the discounted note to $75,000 from the revolving loan fund, and then obviously we're here to answer or have any kind of discussion you want about the end game or how that would work for the farmer's market in Pittsburgh.
Is the plans to pay the $75,000 back to EDAC with funds generated by the market, or you said you had $6,500 in the black?
The plans are to discuss any options that you guys want to discuss, and if that's one, we could definitely discuss that. We kind of made the case at the time a year ago that at $6,500, it would take, I don't know, roughly 20 years to pay back the note. And the idea of administratively just transferring $6,500 to ourselves didn't seem like it really made a lot of sense, but at the same time, you know, we do things every day I'm sure that people don't think make sense. So if you guys would want us to do that, we could get Jamie up here and talk about how that would work.
Oh, that was just a question. You know, I'm thinking maybe that money could be used for maintaining it too. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
It's a great question, Commissioner. I think I kind of look at it like the airport. When the revolving loan fund was established, mostly what it did was build assets at the airport. Some of those were leased for 20 years and then given back to the person that owned the airplane, whether it was a hangar or things like that. I don't see the necessity of, I think that's what the revolving loan fund is for. The farmer's market is a true city asset. It literally sits in the middle of our town, right next to our downtown. It's open to everyone and anyone that's not only a taxpayer, but if you're just visiting. So I think it's one of those unique things like Memorial, where, you know, Memorial Auditorium, to anybody that doesn't understand, has a dedicated sales tax. So to the tune of $600,000, $700,000 a year, we put right into Memorial. If we didn't, it would never even approach the black, and it would always be a hardship for the operating budget. So I do think to take the pressure off of it, and quite frankly that we don't need it, that I would recommend that we don't pay ourselves back, because I think the accounting for that would almost be moot. In 20 years, people would wonder why we're still tracking it. But I do think it's important to note that a $25,000 discount on the note is significant, and that Jim's work there should be recognized. And I do think it's a good investment for us to pay off that note and take over the ownership. Well,
I also appreciate Jim's effort on our behalf. I think he is very conscientious about that kind of thing, and he's a good member of EDAC. My second thing is, it would seem to me like the money is going to go in the same pot, i.e. the city of Pittsburgh, whether we have a bookkeeping entry or not, which I don't know, seems to me like it's going to be cumbersome. As long as we're making the money and it's coming back into the city's coffers, I don't see the real need to keep track of it. I mean, we certainly want to know if it's making money or losing money, just like we do all the other entities that the city has. But I don't see the reason to keep track of it.
Yeah, I'm on the same page, basically. If it's all going to the same place, it's a city asset, creating funds that go to the city. I don't have any problem where that's coming from or where it's going.
but we're okay with paying it off and
Absolutely.
going ahead and
Yeah,
assuming
no,
that financial obligation
An
and
asset worth,
moving forward.
absolutely.
And Kim hired a very good employee. I don't know if they're coming back this year. I hope they are. But we actually, just so you know, there's not 27 people on the city's payroll running the farmer's market either. There's literally a person that gets assistance from all of us in some ways, whether it's through marketing, whether it's Kim through management, or, there's always people there on the day that it's going on. But it's truly a community project and a community value, and I appreciate y'all considering the importance of it, and that we need to pick it up and dust it off and make sure that it's here for the community to use.
Drew?
I'm done.
If you're through, I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
It has been moved and seconded twice. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Non-agenda reports and requests. Bi-monthly budget review. Director of Finance Jamie Clarkson will provide the December 31st, 2017 bi-monthly budget review.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is for December 31st of 2017, even though we're in 2018 now. I've got what I believe to be all the invoices in for 2017. There might still be a straggler come in that I don't know about, but there won't be anything large anyway. It'll be some small piddly little invoice if it does come in. And I also want to note that these numbers are unaudited. The auditors will be here the week of March 5th for a full week to do the 2017 audit, so I feel pretty secure in these numbers though. As usual, for Sarah, who's new on the commission, I try to keep it simple, where green is good and red's not good, for cautionary. Everything's green for 2017. I mean, we started, if you look at the total columns, we started the year with $11.4 million in the bank. When we ended 2017 with $12.6 million in the bank, so we were able to increase our reserves by a little over $1 million, which is really good, because there were several years where we were going the opposite direction. The general fund and the utility fund are the two largest funds of the city, and those both had increases in their reserves, so that's a good thing.
Jamie, remind us again, you brought up the reserve, it's now at 12 million. What are we shooting for?
Well, I usually try to keep 2 months, but some of this is skewed because some of these funds aren't really month-to-month operation, like the debt service fund. That just goes to repay the city debt, and those are not monthly. They're like twice a year. We have to make payments. The main funds on the reserves are the general fund and the utility fund. I'd like to have at least, my goal is to have 16% of expenditures at the end of the year, or 2 months. We're not quite there on the general fund, but we're moving in that direction. The utility fund, we are at 100%. Also, I was able to, over the last 2 to 3 years, I've been able to move $800,000 total out of the general operating of the utilities into what I call the capital reserves. And that's what we're using to fund the water tower contract that you all just approved tonight for, I think, $740,000 or whatever it was, the 2 water towers, without doing any bonds. So
How long did it take you to build that amount, Jamie?
I think it was like 3 years.
So how long before the north tower needs painted?
That's probably what I'll start on next, but I don't know if Matt knows for sure.
It was painted in the early 2000s.
Also, things of note, the sales tax collections for 2017 for the whole year compared to the sales tax collections for 2016 were up 5%. That's like probably the best I think I've ever seen the city. So there's something going on here, so that's good news. And we also have the casino now. It started in basically April 1st of 2017, which was 8 months. And for those 8 months of 2017, it averaged about $24,500 a month in gaming revenue coming in. for this year, 2018, it's ticked up a little bit. It was 26,500 for December, which I received in this year, and then January's I just got the other day was 26,500. So it's grown about $2,000 a month in the last 2 months. So
Right direction.
yeah, and I'll bring probably in May. I'll come back with the auditor, and we'll give you a formal review of the 2017 audit for further discussion. Does anybody have any questions on this evening?
So,
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you for all your work that helps make this stuff happen.
All right.
Make more green boxes than red ones.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Good job.
All right, are there any other non-agenda reports or requests?
I have one, concerning the meetings that Westar had for public information. I attended both of them, and they did a good job answering questions that citizens and business owners had. And, you know, they had concerns that Westar could answer, but they couldn't answer some of the concerns that they directed to the city. So my question is tonight, Darren, do we have any meetings scheduled, or maybe in the not too distant future, for citizens could come to, and kind of like a town hall meeting, public information, the questions that Westar couldn't answer? You have anything scheduled for the public?
To answer questions?
Yes.
No.
Could I request that maybe you schedule some meetings so the public could answer some questions about the possibility of the city taking over, buying Westar out?
Can I step in before Darren takes it over? I'm not sure that at this point, we know the answers to some of those questions. I mean, it seems to me like we've already authorized this study that we're funding. And when we get that, it would seem to me like that's when we really can bring the public into it to take their questions and give them reliable answers as opposed to guessing answers. I don't know whether that's right or wrong or what.
Well, I didn't attend the Westar meetings. We had staff that went to the Westar meetings. I talked to them when they came back, and we talked about the questions that were asked. It was the general consensus from that discussion that, and it was my intent 2 days before those meetings took place, to get out the little bit of knowledge that I had about what we had been doing. We put it out on a city blog. It's a very small amount of information. I hesitate to, I think this is a kind of subject that if the city starts giving partial answers, we're going to regret it later, which is why we're trying to keep it so tight-lipped, if you will, about what our intention is. It was very clear in my blog, our intention is to study this, and we've had a group of stakeholders that we met with and talked about, is this worth studying? And the general consensus was absolutely. So I love public meetings. If we need to have a public meeting to tell them that we're studying this, then we can do that. But as public meetings, and the reason I didn't go to the Westar meeting is you tend to get drug into conversations that you're not ready to have, and you don't have the information to make it. And so you try to say less than more, and then it looks like you're hiding something. So I would urge us, when we decide that we're going to go have a public meeting and take questions from the citizens, that we have something significant to talk to them about that would actually be worth their time and not make us look like there is something that we're not sharing with them. I think there is a host of information that we will have at the end of that feasibility study, and there are other opportunities to learn about who Westar is and how they operate in our community, but for us to answer any questions outside of what I wrote in that blog, I think would be inappropriate, because we're not in the electricity business, which is why we're studying it.
You know, I was at the noon meeting, and a question was directed to me from one of the people there. And
A Westar
But-
person, or?
no,
like
from
an
the
attendant?
audience,
Okay.
from the audience. And Westar did not, would not pass the microphone to me, saying that this was, basically saying that this was their PR meeting and not the city's. And however, they did direct any questions that anyone had to come to Jay, I think at the time. Whether that transpired or not, I don't know. So I think your idea is right about having a meeting. I just am not sure that it's the right time, that we don't have the information that we need to take to this meeting to give our constituents knowledgeable answers.
So we're gonna pay for the study and then answer their questions.
Well, we've already voted to pay
Oh,
for the study.
I understand
Yeah.
that. I understand that, Patrick, but that's some of the questions they have. That's why I brought it up.
Sure,
You know,
I
in the sake
understand
of
that.
transparency, that's what they wanted to ask, and I don't know, I wasn't around you at the meeting, but I didn't see that Westar refused to hand the mic off to anybody that wanted to say something.
Well, a business owner in town pointed out that I was there and asked a question, and that was when they said this wasn't the time for the city.
Well, once again, I request to have town hall public information meetings, but if you choose not to, I will understand and pass that along.
One thing I will add, so tomorrow morning I'm talking to, I hope it's the noon Rotary, or excuse me, I hope it's the morning Rotary and not the morning Kiwanis, but the city is always willing to do our best to answer any question about anything. And I will go to any group that wants to have me, or anybody on my staff would be happy to go if they want to have them, and try to have an appropriate discussion about whatever it is they want to talk about, whether it's Block 22, whether it's South Rouse, whether it's electricity. And I think tomorrow the focus will probably be on electricity. And once again, we won't go beyond into speculation. We will talk about what we know, which is these are the actions that we've taken and this is what we'll be doing. I would hesitate having a town hall meeting without an agenda. And I don't think an agenda is come and ask questions. We have a meeting twice a month for public input. Anybody in this community can come in here, which is probably the room where we would have the public meeting, and ask a question. Anybody can email us. They can come into City Hall. They can call me on the telephone. But until we have a body of information that we can intelligently present that would take longer than 5 to 6 minutes, I think it would be extremely premature, and I would feel like I am reacting to Westar trying to get us to have a meeting when I think we're a mature enough organization and we know what we're doing. When it's time for us to have a meeting with the public, I will come to you and say, I have some information I think we need to share with the public. Right now, I think it's premature, and that's just my thoughts on the subject. And I'd ask Jay, if Dr. Bailey's not here, anybody that could shed more light on it. I understand there's a lot of people, you know, it's in a lot of ways, it's like Block 22 and parking. Block 22 was announced, and everybody wanted to talk about Block 22, and the only thing they could talk about was parking, because there was nothing else to talk about because it was a year from being built. The idea of a city of our size somehow purchasing an electric utility is mind-boggling. But I hopefully don't have a track record of bringing you mind-boggling options. We are going to study this. Studying takes time. Studying means that we aren't on the giving side, we are receiving information and we are trying to get educated. And when we get to a point where we have some information and a decision needs to be made, we have not approved spending money on an RFP. That will come to you when we get the responses to the RFP. We didn't even ask your permission, because we don't have to publish an RFP. We simply informed you, we are putting out an RFP, and hopefully some people will respond to it, and they won't come back saying it's $12 billion and something we can't afford, and we will move forward with it. But at this point, I know as bad as everybody wants to talk about electricity, there's just nothing to talk about yet. The city is studying this. That's all that's going on. We are a partner with Westar. We have been for a long time. They're going through a merger, and there's a lot of unknowns. But I don't know what we would possibly talk about in a public meeting if we had to provide the information, because it's all in the blog, and the blog is 4 paragraphs, and all it says is, we have been and will continue to study this with the blessing of our commission under the guidance of a stakeholders group for the community. And when we have something more than that, we will present it to them. And that's, I can't say it any clearer than that.
I got you. I'll pass it along.
Thanks, Chuck.
All right. Any other non-agenda reports or requests that to bring up?
I don't think so.
If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I will second. All right. It's been moved and seconded twice again to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are done. Thank you.